Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Show to View with Mike G, the show of life, the show of Arizona, the show of wine, mezcal, studying everything to learn so much about the world. With today's guest, the founder of Sombra Mezcal, an importer of wine, a master sommelier, Mr. Richard Betts. I had the chance to sit down and talk with him, kind of a living legend in a sense. I heard so much about him, and we got to sit down in San Antonio this year during the cocktail conference, and I figured this was a great week to bring this chat out and introduce Richard to the world in this kind of way. He's a very intelligent guy, very introspective, thoughtful, and he has to keep moving forward. And it's great to have his thoughts and insights about the sustainability of mezcal. Judy Cooper just released that on Monday, and then today with Richard Betts. So I think it's a good companion piece, and it was great getting to know him. And I think you'll really enjoy this. He's a very quirky guy, but so insanely intelligent. So without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy this great chat with Richard Betts.
Yeah, and not to say that that's easy, but like, okay, I'm going to go here and do this thing, and it happens, and then, but then you got to like build your constituency, and hopefully other people embrace your enthusiasms, and that's what takes all the time.
That's hard. You've got a law degree, from my understanding, right? Or at least you were pursuing that.
I have a graduate thesis in hydrogeology, and was on my way to law school when I blew it off.
That's crazy. So I mean, there's so many different ways I'm going to take this conversation and feel. How do you arrive at that intersection of wine and mezcal and things, which I guess there's a lot of similarities.
Mm-hmm.
But let's go a little more holistic at the moment. Do you like being on the road? Do you like talking
I love
to
it.
people?
I do. I think it suits my attention. I don't know. Like,
what do you mean?
My wife calls me. She says I have an attention deficit disorder, which is probably true actually. Yeah. As I've started to learn more about that, it's for sure a thing. But it's not so much a deficit, but I like to do lots of stuff all at once and be really busy. It makes me feel comfy.
How do you feel when it's off and it's downtime?
Stir crazy.
Yeah.
I had yesterday before I got on the plane. I had the daytime alone in our home. And I was itchy by like noon.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, I already been to the gym and home and whatever, and I should have been like in a good place to work. And it's like, holy shit, I gotta go. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do?
It's like, crazy, right?
Yeah, it's wild.
When you work with things and you think and you have a lust for life in a sense, right?
Yep.
It's kind of like lifting weights, right?
Yeah.
So you start at a certain place.
Yep.
And then at some point, that's not good enough anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You got to keep taking on more and more and more.
Yep.
Do you think that I don't think it'll break either one of us. I think we like this, but is there a point in which you're like, man, maybe I will go hang out in Oaxaca and just spend the rest of my late years there?
That's not going to happen. No matter where it is, it's not going to happen. I can see spending longer periods of time in places like 2-3 weeks, maybe.
Sure.
And I try to do that, like make that happen for myself at least once a year. But we're making mezcal and making wine on 3 continents. And, there's a lot of other things. So there's a lot going on, so it keeps you moving. But if, at least once a year I find a moment to do that, and it's rewarding. It's nice, and it's by like sort of day 4, you really sink into a different place. You find the depths of yourself in a good way, and you don't look at your phone as much, etc. So that's nice. And so I see maybe, hey, if I can do that 2 or 3 times a year, that'd be good. But
that's pretty good.
I got to move around.
I know.
It's cool. It's not like for me, it's not like, one beer got me drunk and now I have to have 3 to get drunk. That's not the point at all. It's the more you travel, the more you see how cool this planet is and meet all these awesome people. And and derive inspiration from what they're doing, and that's exciting. That's what feeds it.
Totally,
you know?
right? The experiences, the being just thrown into cultures, different cultures. I mean,
Totally.
once you catch a little bit of it, especially like mezcal is an interesting kind of gateway.
Yep.
Into a lifestyle, into a culture.
Yep.
Much like wine is, right?
It is,
As
actually.
you know, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not enough then.
No.
The floodgates kind of open. You're like, well, okay, well, what else did they make?
Exactly.
It's like, oh,
Yeah.
Raicilla. Oh, shit, what's that? Right.
Totally.
It's a toll and stuff like that, which is an interesting thing.
It is.
So, all right. So are you a Colorado guy?
For the moment, yeah.
Yeah, for the moment. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Tucson, and
Tucson.
we were in Sonora, Mexico, literally every weekend my whole life
No kidding.
until school. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And, well, college. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Tucson's a great place.
It is a great place. It is
It's
a great
hot. I
place.
used to live in Scottsdale, and it's hot.
Yeah, it is hot. I think Scottsdale's a less good place.
It's a way
no
less good
offense to anyone in
place, dude.
Scottsdale,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's a little more soul in Tucson, I think.
That's what I hear.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
what kind of stuff? Were you a thinking kid, or were you more athletic?
Destructive would probably. Maybe that was the attention span thing.
Yeah.
I was like throwing myself on my BMX bike off of anything anything I could.
That's amazing.
Blowing up everything I could. When you go to Mexico every weekend, that means you come back every Sunday night with a backpack full of firecrackers.
That's how you gotta live it.
Exactly. Yeah. So no, it was good, and this is where I got introduced to Agave spirits, Bacanora, of course.
Because you could be pretty young and still kind of have access.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
But also, like, I don't know if you guys have this term. We call that "Hey Mister," "Hey Mistering."
No.
Or like,
is that kind of like when you cross the border and they're like?
Well, it's like when you and I are 12 years old and we like recycle the bottles, gather all this change, and give it to some dude and say, "Hey, Mister, buy us some beer," right?
Yeah.
Well, sometimes when you "Hey, Mister" in Sonora, you end up with Bacanora in a Fanta bottle.
That's
know?
fucking incredible.
It was awesome. It was awesome.
Was it even interesting then? Or
Oh,
was it just
super interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, super interesting. I mean, where I derived the satisfaction from was an entirely different place.
Yeah.
You know, now there's the intellectual value, and back then it was just pure buzz.
Pure
right?
buzz?
Yeah,
Of
why
course.
not? Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're seeking BMX ramps and stuff, so you were a biker, not a skater.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Does the punk rock punkiness and that attitude kind of go along with it when you're
Does
younger?
Tucson actually had a huge punk scene?
Did it really?
Tucson had an enormous punk scene from it because all the bands from Southern California would come through Phoenix and Tucson.
Oh, that's amazing.
And so I grew up across the street from a place where my mom worked sometimes was the Green Dolphin, which is just a dive bar. But everybody used to play there. Black Flag, Dead Kennedys.
So X and like Fear and all those dudes?
All of it.
What?
In
so
this
you grew
crazy
up in that kind
Yep,
of?
exactly, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if the artist that did all the Black Flag album covers, his name's Raymond Pettibone.
There we go, yeah.
So he's now a huge deal. He's an enormous artist of international acclaim.
Yeah.
Won the Bucksbaum Prize at the Biennale in New York 10 years ago or so. But he used to do all those concert posters, and I just grew up with them stapled to the telephone pole outside of the Green Dolphin.
The slip it in one still like gets me.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So Raymond became this huge artist, and I'm tangenting for a moment. But he's become this huge artist, and with my first wine label, Betts and Scholl, my partner Scholl is a heavyweight in the contemporary art world, and so we would give the wine to a contemporary artist that wanted to play and say, "Here, catch a buzz," and however you respond to it visually becomes our label.
That is incredible.
So we were a few wines in, and I said, "Hey, look, Scholl, you're not worth your salt in the art world if you can't get Raymond Pettibone to do a label." And he's like, "Game on." And so Raymond did the most amazing label for a wine we made in California in 2005.
Incredible.
It's bananas.
Isn't that weird how when you're younger, I'm sure in no way are you thinking, "Oh, I'll get into wine." Right?
Yeah,
like wine
no idea.
Dude, it's like wine. That's snooty shit my parents drank at that point.
But in a box, yeah.
In a box,
yeah.
Right? And then it all comes full circle when you're older. And not only did punk rock come back in a way in a tangential way, the wine intersected. As we get older, every fucking punk rock dude drinks.
Yep, it's true. It's so true.
Even Ian McIvor, I don't know if he drinks, but he eats meat now, at least from what I understand.
Mm-hmm.
We all kind of change when we grow up. I love that, though. Do you find, and this is, again, this would be a brilliant exchange of tangents and direct narrative and all this stuff, but do you find, like, many of the people in this industry, as you're kind of traveling around and talking, they grew up being musicians. They grew up
totally.
being artists. Why do you think that is?
I think that there's something to, an asymmetrical life that appeals to that personality.
Yeah.
It's not going to sit in this box, not going to clock in for these hours. I got to I have this thing, I don't want this term, I don't want it to be pejorative, but you've got this rage inside of you. Like, God, man, I got to do something. You're itchy, you're tingling. You're like,
it is. It's electric, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And so however that expresses itself, I don't think it lets you fit into the traditional boxes,
Which is a good thing. I think
It's
maybe
a great thing. Holy cow.
Perhaps that's where innovation really spawns.
I think so.
Having a really fucking problem with the system.
Exactly. Yeah, totally.
I've got
to
a
be
bone
me.
to pick with capitalism, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing, and I love that. And that's maybe why I love chatting with people on the show, and especially people in Mezcal. So many artists, dude.
Yep.
It's so cool, filmmakers and all of that. Well, so it's interesting because academically it sounds like you had a lot of structure.
Yeah.
You achieved pretty nice milestones academically, but
Yeah.
doesn't that seem kind of contrasting or disparate to being like a biker, kind of destructive kid?
Well, it does and it doesn't. I mean, if you watch me work through that, my graduate thesis advisor tried to punch me in the face. That was literally, that didn't happen. But I mean, he tried, but he didn't connect. It's a struggle where I did those things, and just like I did the Court of Master Sommeliers program, I did them for me because I am a huge believer in data, not dogma. I mean, the spirits industry is filled with dogma. It's just
smoke and mirrors.
It's
and all
smoke and
that
mirrors,
shit. Yeah.
and that bugs me because I think we're all entitled to an opinion, but we ought to be informed as opposed to
Yeah.
just anyhow. So if I want to learn about something, I want to do it yesterday.
Yeah.
And I tend to find the best way to do it is to impose pressure upon myself, and so
Like rigid guidelines, timelines.
timelines.
Is that the best thing?
Timelines and tests, and
Yeah.
I respond to that. If I want to get fit, I sign up for a race because I don't want to finish last.
Yeah.
It's just
Wow.
and I don't mean that like I have to beat you or you. It's just
No,
like,
it's
I just
you.
want to do this as well as Richard can possibly do this.
Absolutely.
And so it's that sort of thing, and I really wanted to learn about the scientific method, which is I think something everybody should learn
Sound
about.
approach to things, right?
Yeah, exactly. Controlling variables one at a time. Because
Yeah.
once there are two variables,
Dude,
then you learn nothing.
Yeah.
Right? So,
When you talk about flavor, you talk about food, you talk about people. I mean,
Yep.
you like getting down into the pure equation of it.
yep.
This variable, time's a great variable, temperature's a great variable.
Yep.
Pressure, like all these other things. So you like it. You like to get down and understand where things really, really come from.
And that's how we get smart. And that's
Yeah.
how we can make
Dude,
improvements.
exactly.
Like you
Yeah.
can't make anything better if you don't know why something happened.
I had this conversation just the other day.
Yeah.
And people, we're in an interesting place in terms of the narrative of America right
Yep,
now.
we are.
I mean, it doesn't even really feel political. It feels platitudinal,
Yep.
if that's the way.
Mhm.
And people will say something like, man, we'll create more jobs.
Mhm.
And so you and I know creating jobs means there's got to be a process. There's got to be hands on a thing doing a thing.
Yep.
And then say, we'll bring jobs back to America. Like, okay, we'll do that. Or I can get a robot that'll pay itself off in 6 months. Like,
Yeah.
people, they don't think about stuff like that.
Totally.
They don't think about the details.
Yep.
And for you having that kind of approach and that insight to understand stuff like that, do you like helping? Let's use the word enlightening folks
Mhm.
about whether it's mezcal, whether it's wine, whether it's just the world.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it's important that we all give back in some way, and that's what originally precipitated the idea of law school. I wanted to do environmental law, and one of the things I had to reconcile for myself was that I wasn't going to give back in the fashion I imagined. And so I had to figure out what does that mean for me now that I'm on this path to become a sommelier, and I determined that I give back as a sommelier on a nightly basis by helping people enjoy their lives.
Sure.
Right? They've worked all day doing whatever it is they're going to do, and now I'm their ambassador to a good time. And it's a service industry, but I think that gets lost pretty quickly with many people. That don't forget, people are paying to be there, and they're paying for you to make them happy. So make them happy, and that's really giving something. And now with, be it, our work with mezcal or wine or with the books that we write, it's about Well, let's just take the books, for example. We wrote these scratch and sniff wine books and whiskey books. It's a beer book coming.
Cool.
It's about taking something that's well loved but poorly understood, and helping people understand more, so they feel empowered to make decisions and enjoy it more frequently. Right? There's wine's a great example. There's so much mystery about wine, and whether it has to come from a certain place, or it has to cost a certain amount of money, or what have you. And if you can help people feel like they get it, even just a little bit, and then they'll put their toe in the water, then they'll be up to their ankle, then they'll be up to their knees, and soon they'll just be in the pool with, like me. And wine's part of a fantastically awesome lifestyle. All alcoholic beverage can be. It serves a positive purpose when used appropriately, and that's what we do, right? So if we can make this more accessible for people, then we have contributed.
Yeah, it's a brilliant way to look at it. And I kind of wonder, so the transition, school's structured, right?
Mm-hmm.
School has quarters, it has tests, it has these milestones.
Mm-hmm.
How did that transition into the hospitality industry work for you? Because that seems a little more loose, very, very soft skill based, not really like specific milestones and things.
I agree with you. There are some specific milestones. The Court of Master Sommeliers was a milestone for sure, and I did that just because I got to. At one point, I had the greatest wine job on the planet. I don't know if that job is still as good as it is when I had it. I had it as the sommelier role at the Little Nell Hotel in Aspen, and from 2000 to 2008, the town was going crazy. The world was going crazy in an economically positive way, and the things people drank and the fun people had, and myself included, it was amazing. But my very first night there, I got there, it was like June 12th in the year 2000, and I realized immediately that the guests knew more than me. And
how were you feeling about that?
Fucking freaked out. Like not okay. Like I'm not worthy of this job at this point. I can be polite, and I know a little bit, and I can open wine and do service with aplomb, but that's not enough. So that's what pushed me to do the Court of Master Sommelier thing, and it was pure myopia. I didn't ski before I took the advanced exam, and before I took the master's exam, I'd just wake up, study, work, sleep, exercise, repeat.
Right.
Which is good, because then I was done with it very, very quickly, and it's not about getting it done, but when you're done, you allegedly have a level of knowledge, and I achieved that level of knowledge, but then sort of a long way back to where we were, but then you're better able to do your job with your guests.
Right. You framed it in an interesting way. You're like, how do I better serve the guests?
Exactly.
Not myself.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's it. But at the same time, you serve yourself by serving your guests, right? So you have job satisfaction.
Symbiotic,
you make relationships. Every single one of my business partners has come through some relationship at the Nell. My best friends have come from the Nell. It's a very, at that time it was a very special place. It still is a very special place.
An incubator, right?
Yeah.
I love thinking of like certain bars at certain times being that way.
Yeah. But then back to what you said about it doesn't have the same, the service industry doesn't have the same, rigid, confines or goals or what have you. I think that's even better, because it really separates people. And what I mean by that is, if you care about your job, you're going to be good at it.
Yeah, sure.
And if you don't care about your job, it's going to show immediately, right? Because like you can show up to work and put on your tie and sit in your cubicle and punch your keyboard and answer your emails, and it looks like you're doing your job. But if you have to go and wait tables and you don't care, it's going to be really apparent very, very quickly that you don't care. And if you don't care, then you suck. And if you suck, well, then get out.
Do something you don't dislike.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. So what I really love, let's take the positive side of that, is when you have a great team or great group of people working together, it's really special because everybody wants to be there and everybody cares and everybody wants to make it great. So there's a real, well, for sure there's camaraderie that comes with that, but there's a caring, thoughtful environment that can be created, and focused towards excellence, which is making people happy. And that's a special thing to be a part of,
At the right time it is, right?
Yeah.
Because all cylinders are firing in exactly the right way.
Yeah.
In order.
Yeah. It's the theater. Every time you step from the back of the house out to the floor,
Yeah.
you're on stage, and that's it's totally bitchin'. I love it.
It's a great thing. Time and place is
Yep.
so paramount in making that possible.
Yep.
Like Motley Crue couldn't be big now.
No,
You know?
no, it's true.
But LA
Yeah.
at that time, it's a perfect kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting theme this week as I've been talking to people. I heard really one beautiful way to look at the hospitality industry, which can we consider that a step away from academia for you? Like, because you kind of did what you needed to do in the college space, and then so she said this fine woman, Zara Bates, said, you go into the hospitality industry, whether you know it or not, with a purpose.
Yep.
You go into it with a specific thing that you want to get out of it.
Right.
Much like life, I guess, right?
Yep.
But can you consciously think about the reason that you got into the hospitality? What was it going to do for you?
Me personally?
Yeah, but not in a selfish way. But like, how is it going to, in a sense, like enhance you?
Yeah. Well, let's see. I can think of a number of things. I do. Yeah, that's a great question. I know that I need to be able to, and sort of back to that ADHD thing, I need to be able to do what I want to do. Hospitality industry, this is in no specific order, but it affords you your days. So if I have my days to do what I want to do, like, that's huge.
Oh, that's a great point.
It's enormous. A second thing is there's room for individuality there, and I need that. Like, and not like, hey, it's all about me, but that's not it. It's if I'm not allowed to be myself to some degree, that it just misery sets in, and then you don't do anything well. So that opportunity for individuality works. I think it can be very entrepreneurial, as a waiter. Even if you pull tips, you're still running your own business within a business.
That's true, yeah.
And that's ultra important to me. I'm very goal oriented. Take away a goal and I'm out.
Yeah,
like just doesn't.
Well, I love
have
it.
No interest.
That even for someone that is insightful and cerebral and intelligent as you, at least as I perceive up to this moment, you knew that there were things that you could get out of it that
Absolutely.
would help you be a better person.
I also knew that I wanted to have the best wine job in the world, and I had landed it.
That's incredible.
I mean, that was amazing. And it's not like, oh, I have to have this stripe that I have the best wine job in the world. No, I want to be in this environment where I meet all these people, I drink all this crazy shit, and I learn about the world of wine, which is what I'm really here to do. I'm here to learn about wine.
You're at the epicenter of this culture, like the access to the flavors, the people, because it's a transient.
Yeah.
I guess people go there on vacation all the time. From everywhere.
You meet every single person at the Nell, from Dr. Dre to Bill Clinton.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. By the way, Dre's security detail is much more intense than the president's. Literally.
I absolutely believe it.
Yeah.
Dude.
Suge Knight's still out there looking for him.
Well, he's got good equity in Beats and stuff. He made a bit off that deal, I'm sure.
Yep.
So the shift away from hospitality, which is always going to be an undercurrent, I think, of how we interact with each other, how when you're around talking to people about Sombra and things, you wanted to do your own wine label, right? Is that kind of one of the next steps?
Yeah. So that was really the next step. I passed the master sommelier exam in 2003, and the next day I wasn't excited about it. Like, I really woke up with this like hole, It's like I was describing in the apartment yesterday when I got itchy. It's the same thing. Like, oh man, because, oh God, wow, what? So every day for the the previous 3 years while I worked my way through the various exams, it was wake up, exercise, study, work, sleep, repeat. And now I wake up, exercise, but now there's like that thing I was working on is gone.
Oh man, that's
It was and you say, well, you can reappropriate some of that time for your family or whatever. That only goes so far. It only goes so far. You still have to satisfy that thing in you, that rage. So I thought, well, it's one thing to read about it, and it's another thing to get dirty. So let's get dirty. And that was also for me the beginning of the first step of furthering my entrepreneurial need, to work for myself. Let's see if this thing floats. And if it floats, well, then it can take me places. And so we started making a wine in Australia. and it was Grenache. And at the time, people say, "Well, what's in Grenache?" And you're like, "That's not what's in Grenache. It's its own thing."
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
16, whatever, 13, 14 years later, now people know what it is. But at that time, they didn't, and that was fine because I loved the stuff. I saw it as the warm climate analogy of Pinot Noir, and if I love something, it's a pretty good chance I can convince you to love it.
Yeah.
Because I'm excited about it, right?
Sure.
And if you're not excited about it, you're like, oh yeah, I make Chardonnay like all the rest of the world, like ho hum, except this one says Richard's Cuvée. Well, fuck that. No one's going to drink that.
Care, right?
Yeah, nobody cares. So, long story short, we started with Grenache. We did really well with, got a lot of nice accolades.
Yeah.
And made a few more wines in Australia, and simultaneously we added California, and then we added France. So under this Best in Show label, we're making wine in all these places, and then we wanted to work in Italy, so we used our model and co-founded a business with some friends, a wine called Scarpetta.
Scarpetta,
Yeah, Bobby Stuckey and Lachlan McKinnon Patterson. So Dennis Scholl and I applied our model with these guys.
That's incredible.
And started Scarpetta. So that all got going, and then I was working on both of those labels, working full-time at the Nell. And
how old are we talking?
I'm...
Or when you were doing that stuff?
So, let's see. I guess I would have been 32.
It's a good time to do it.
when we knocked that out.
Did you have kids yet?
I did. I had a 2-year-old little girl.
Wow.
Yeah. She's now 16.
You know, that's incredible,
Yep.
man. But you know what's really funny about that? And I love this because I laugh, not because I think it's like a dig on family or anything, but family, it's a law of diminishing returns at a certain point. Like, you think that, oh, well, I'm going to be a better husband because I'm spending more time. But, like, at some point, it's just extra time. I'm not really helping out that much.
Exactly, totally.
You know?
Yeah.
And so that's what it's like, well, here's a good time to cut it.
Exactly.
I feel like we're still pretty intimate.
Yep.
Let me go do these other things, right?
Exactly. You have to. And you have to be yourself before,
Sure.
Before you
how does your wife feel about it?
Well, that wife is no longer my wife.
Fair enough. So we share that. We share.
Yeah, and she's actually as excited about it as I am. We got together before I was even able to drink.
Oh, wow.
Legally, that is. But I didn't even know who I was at that point in time in my life, and everybody grows and
we do some things.
You do some things
that we wouldn't do today, probably.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Or you find your way to like new enthusiasms, no matter what they may be. And so, I mean, the nice result is that she's now on with her life doing things that are making her really happy, and I'm on with my life doing things that are making me really happy. And remarried actually to the most wonderful woman in the world.
Second time's always the best time, I hear.
It's great.
Yeah.
I couldn't be happier. And that thing people always say, they married their best friend, and you're like, oh yeah, sure, whatever. Well, now I'm one of those guys. I did this. I married my best friend. She's awesome.
You know what's funny is I'm not really sure why people are so apologetic about love.
Yeah.
About like textbook love. You know, they're like, oh no, but it's I swear it's not cheesy. Like we have a really sincere connection. She's like, I don't know why that is.
I don't know either. I wish we weren't.
I know.
Yeah.
But it's okay. I'm right there with you. Like having that. Doesn't it provide a wonderful foundation to thrive in those intellectual areas too?
It does.
Yeah.
I mean, it sets you up. I have this. I get asked all the time, and this is a long way of answering your question. But I ask all the time, like, hey, what should I do to pass this test? And as young people are going through the master sommelier exam, they want to what's the secret? What's the Richard Betts juice? And I tell people to figure out how to have their best day. Meaning, they expect me to say, study this, read that, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I'm assuming you've done all of that. If you get invited to the test, you're prepared to pass.
Right.
But the last piece is the you piece. And so I know that if I get up in the morning, I run, I listen to loud music, and I pound a beer, there's nothing the world can throw at me that I won't just brush off.
Amazing.
It's how you be your best you. And so that extends to, more than a routine like that. You have to set yourself up with the right people around you, that, fall in love with the right people. And back to, now being married to Carla, like we're so good at helping each other be our best self that then you can create, then you can travel 300 days a year, then you can, do all the things you do to build your constituency for Sombra or our wine or what have you. It's easy and it's fun because you're coming from a good place.
Dude, that's right. Like, I don't think you can truly be successful and follow through with those things if there are these mental obstructions.
Absolutely.
Which, AKA, could be trauma.
Yep.
This kind of rift between you and the person you have this emotional entanglement with, you know? And that's why I don't think I try to avoid conflict.
Yeah.
But avoiding conflict's a great thing.
Yep.
Resolution's also great.
Totally.
But you seem very even-tempered, very even-keeled. What's your approach? You could talk about this as either personally or professionally.
Yep.
Dealing with conflict.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm very happy with the way I deal with it. And then after I tell you about how I deal with it, I will say that there are some downfalls to how I deal with it.
Okay.
So the way I deal with it is just, it's just like we're apologizing for love. I feel like I'm apologizing again for using something that we all know, but life is fucking short.
Sure.
It is short. And, I don't, the older you get, the more friends you lose, but I have lost a lot of friends recently to accident, to suicide, to just weird circumstances.
Yeah.
And, I've always had this carpe diem attitude, but this just puts it into high relief for me. And, none of this matters. Like, our work in the spirits industry is awesome. We're fucking lucky. We're not emptying bedpans. We're not saving lives.
Yeah.
So in the end, like, when there's stress around it, I just remind myself it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. What matters is that really happy dog coming down the block, and I'm going to pet it.
Yeah.
In fact, I did that this morning. I went to the farmer's market. I pet dogs and ate barbecue. It was great.
Perfect way to start a morning.
Totally. And, I spent so much time outdoors as a kid. I get outdoors, and that's where I find clarity. You don't find clarity with the noise of humanity. I find
or
clarity
phone in your hand, right?
Yeah, exactly. None of that. You certainly don't find clarity flipping through Twitter or whatever. And that's just more noise. So for me, I really value the time I have on the planet, and with that held as the most important thing, I avoid most of the drama.
Yeah.
It's really a good thing.
Because it's unimportant.
Yeah, it's
That's
unimportant.
a good
You're
point.
just like, gosh, why? Why are we arguing about this? Like,
Right.
Why are we upset about this? Like, okay, even if it's an issue, like, okay, this is an issue, then let's just fix it and move on.
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
Mud thrown is ground lost. Like, anger is just bad. That's just lost energy. You don't get that back. You don't get that moment back. You don't get that part of your soul back.
And it begets more negative,
It
right?
does.
Yeah,
It does. It's a bad loop.
It's a snowball.
Yeah.
Sure.
The downside to this is that some people don't think I'm serious, and that's
Really?
it's an interesting thing I'm dealing with right now. Actually,
Is it that they feel like you're too subdued and it lacks passion?
No, they know I'm passionate, but they're like, oh, he's going to be fine with this. And I will say casually, like, I'm not fine with this. I'm like, oh, no, he's going to be fine with this. I'm like, no, I'm not fine with this. And so eventually there are moments where you do have to jump up and down.
Yeah.
And, like, listen, this is not okay, right? Like,
yeah.
I'm not okay with this. This isn't going to work. And I try, you always hope people will do their best and find their way to the right result without that having to happen.
Not always.
It is, but I would be lying if I said that I don't have to escalate sometimes, and that's whatever. The good news is it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, you have to know when to do it.
Yeah.
And that's what makes you good at being a businessman. It makes you good at being creative, good partner, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Be a dick sometimes, man.
Yeah.
You just have to.
But the nice path is to give people the opportunity to do the right thing for as long as possible. And, and sometimes it comes around without having to, get involved in the drama, right?
The best,
that's just satisfying, and you remain mellow, and we're doing your own thing in the meantime.
It makes a lot of sense. Well, so your focus on the outdoors and how clarifying that is and how much solace can be obtained by Jesus being in Oaxaca just alone, right?
Mm-hmm.
I imagine that there was some piece of that element that appealed to you about Mezcal itself.
Oh, for sure.
So Mezcal finds us.
Yeah, it does.
How did Mezcal find you?
Found me, in an interesting way. As I told you, I had these 2 wine businesses going. I was living in Aspen. I love the nightlife. I'd grown up drinking agave spirits. I think everything on the bar is amazing. It's really interesting to just this fantastic cornucopia of cool stuff from all over the world. But only agave spirits are uppers. I really believe they have a physiologically unique effect on us. I dig whiskey and I dig gin, and I use them to go to sleep and pacify myself on an airplane, respectively. That's what they do.
Yeah.
Like, it's not to say I drink a glass of whiskey to go to sleep, but I drink when I tuck into whiskey when I know that, like, okay,
things are winding down.
Things
right?
are winding down.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Gin, it's like, oh man, I'm on this airplane and I just need to cool out, and it just helps with that.
Yeah.
But if I'm in neither of those situations, or and I want to be up and fun and talkative and like into people and exploring where I am, and that's generally my MO. Agave spirits, they serve a real purpose there.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Different sugar.
It's
fructose
an on ramp,
instead,
exactly.
which is a little bit different.
Totally. So it's the on ramp. That's how I consider it.
I love it. Yeah.
So at that point in my life, I'm loving the on ramp. I'm like, I'm gonna go start a tequila brand. And so I went to tequila and was immediately depressed because, the
commercialization
the
piece?
commercialization piece.
Yeah.
Like, yes, there are a few artisan tequilas made, and we make one now ourselves. But for the most part, and particularly at this time, this was in 2005, I went and saw, the agave are steamed in this autoclave, this pressure cooker, and they come out and they get run down this 30-foot conveyor belt with all these like knives and water's pouring over it. And at the end of the conveyor belt, all of the liquid and sugar has been pulled off into liquid form, and all of the solids, all the fibers go into the garbage. And I stood there scratching my head going like, you just threw out all the information. Like, everything that was going to give this real flavor, you just put it in the trash. It's like trying to make red wine without the skins.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Doesn't work. So I was depressed, and I left, and I went all over Mexico, and we drank Raicilla, and we drank Sotol, and we drank more Bacanora, and we drank Mezcal from Durango, which is interesting, but not for me.
Different stuff. Yeah.
Very different stuff. And I mean, one of the founding principles of everything we make is we make what we like. Because if you don't like it, if you don't like it, I have to drink it all. I can do that. I can do it, but I'm going to make something that pleases me. So when we got to Oaxaca, like, okay, this is the place, and because it has this, it's, we'll use the word terroir in wine, but it has the connection to the people and the place and the geology, the geography, the history, the cuisine. Yeah. It's all there.
It's so rich.
Plus, you're in this staggeringly beautiful place, and butterflies floating by. And
colorful as hell. I mean,
it's amazing.
So beautiful place.
It's so beautiful. And
But
the people are like, their hearts are beautiful.
It's lovely. And then it's Hispanic culture, I think, probably on the whole. It's weird. We talk about, I talk about being apologetic about, being angry or being in love. I almost, in some sense, like, everybody, they romanticize Oaxaca. And I understand why. They romanticize Mezcal as well, and I understand why.
Yep.
But to me, it's becoming a little bit like, I was listening to that band before they signed to a major label.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
It feels like it's growing into that, and I don't want to build resentment. I don't want to build any anger. But have you been wrestling with that at all?
Yeah, of course. But there are many bands, which is the good news. Like,
point.
Everyone's paying attention to Mezcal, which is a really exciting thing. And the good news is that it will bring more positivity to the thing. I think we're in a place where there's going to be a little bit of a shakeout. Yeah. Where less scrupulous producers are going to be, they're going to be seen for what they are. I think
posers, as we said back in the day, right?
Yeah. And I want to choose my words carefully because I'm still articulating it for myself. But it's an interesting place where there's almost a little of that, that element that turned me off in tequila, that's arriving in Oaxaca. And they're like, hey, this is us. This is the brand. This is the thing. And glamour, or whatever, or tradition. But when you go there and see that that's not really the case, it's it's empty, and that's uninteresting. But I don't feel like it's a threat, but I don't think it's going to win. I think that there are more people being really conscientious about how this will be done, and that's part of that's coming from necessity. Like, this thing is growing faster than mezcal production can feed it, and so people are having to figure out how to do it better, but also do it I mean, as in making more, but they are figuring out how to do it better and correctly. And so, I mean, we're actually trying to take the lead in this. You know, we just built this amazing Palenque, and I want to tangent on that for a second, if we may. Back to data and dogma, right? Dogma, tradition. Okay, it's not traditional. It has to be traditional. Like, well, let's talk about tradition.
Right.
As an example, why are Palenques all on the river? That's traditional, right? They're on a river because you need a source of water, and part of it
for the condenser, yeah.
Yeah, part of it for the condenser, and part of it to help the fermentation if you have to thin this up a little bit.
Right.
But all we do is, the goose lays the golden egg, and then we're holding this bottle of mezcal in our hand, like, wow, okay. But it's distillation, meaning what you're holding in your hand is maybe like 1/6 or 1/8 of what actually went into the still.
Exactly.
So what happened to the other, 7/8?
Right.
Where are those?
Where are they going? Where are you dumping them? Yeah.
In the river.
That's right.
Okay, so it's highly acidic. It's oxygen starved. So when you put it in the river, the first thing it does is it pulls out all the oxygen. And who needs the oxygen in the river? The fish. Well, they're all gone, right? You've changed the pH greatly, so people can't drink the stuff.
Nothing can live in it, right?
Nothing can live in it. You can't drink it anymore. But the people in the next village downstream are bathing in it, right? So that's tradition bad, right? That's not helpful. So for us, it's been a really exciting opportunity to examine this whole thing and okay, it's traditional to roast in the ground. Mm-hmm. That's really important. Okay, sure. Let's do that. Let's do it really well. Let's figure out what is the right wood type. And here's the scientist in me. Okay, I hate mesquite. I think mesquite is a poor wood to use for making mezcal because it's too sappy, it's too smoky, and then all you can taste is
too
the
heavy-handed,
smoke. Right? Exactly. But point is, okay, it's really important that we continue to roast in the ground. But why, do we have to take water from the river? No, let's catch it from the rain, and to wit, we have 100,000 gallons of the stuff that's all rainwater caught underneath the Palenque, so it's stored underneath the Palenque. That's interesting.
So these efficiencies.
There are efficiencies to, why does the horse have to turn the Tahona? You got to have a Tahona. That matters. Right. But why does the horse have to do it? That's actually a miserable fucking life for the horse. That sucks.
Just sit there walking in circles.
It sucks. It really sucks. So let's turn the thing with electricity, but let's harvest electricity from the sun.
Right.
Zero
emissions.
So you can do all this stuff. But then, back to those 7/8. Or actually, let's take one step back in the production. Why chop wood? And I get, not everybody can go and, it's not a big check, but not everybody can go write a check and buy we've created this thing we burn gas and you feed it oxygen, and so you actually use very, very, very little natural gas, but it's natural gas.
Yeah, right.
So it's much cleaner, and you're not chopping down trees to fire your still. And that's the traditional way to do it is with wood, but why? Why?
Because a heat source is a heat source in this case, right? You could use steam if you could do it.
You could. But if you use wood, one, it's, you're creating more CO2. It's bad for the planet. You're chopping down the trees, and it's also really imprecise. You don't make better mezcal by being imprecise.
Right. Yeah.
To then the 7/8 that's left over, whatever it is, and all the fibers and garbage. Yeah. Let's not put that in the river. So we're actually trying to lead the way, and we're trying to run this whole thing as an open book, so that we'll say, hey, this is what worked, this is what didn't work. We would encourage, this is how we did it, this is what it costs. And so hopefully every mezcal producer can learn from us. We're walking the plank first and
it's
and
like
see what works.
Did that. They made all of their battery technology open so that everybody can do it, because that's the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
You're trying
100%.
to make the industry better, so fuck, dude, it's not about making money. And I think you're right.
Not at all. Not at all.
And those are really, really interesting things. As a distiller, steam works.
Yeah.
Direct heat, an element works. If you can get solar into, wood is incredibly imprecise.
Yeah, incredibly so.
And better distillate is achieved by having a consistent temperature so that you can, control those things. So I absolutely get that.
Yeah.
So when did Sombra start? What year did you guys push
2006 was our first.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, so here we are 11 years later.
That's amazing.
When we started, it was Ron, of course. And it was, although I've never met him, Douglas French was making Scorpion.
Okay.
The mezcal with the scorpion on the bottom. I've not tried it. And ourselves, really. That's insane. That was really the landscape at the time.
Yeah.
I might be forgetting somebody, but that was pretty much it. And
Still just a few players at that time.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know, and I told my friends I started a mezcal business, and they were like, "Oh, you're going to go to jail." I was like, "What?" Like, yeah, mescaline's illegal.
Not mescal.
It's not
Damn
mescal,
it.
yeah. But it's just like Grenache at the time. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like people didn't know what Grenache was, and they didn't know real mescaline or mezcal wasn't on the tips of their tongue
Dude,
at the time.
I went to a place just during Christmas in Fort
Uh-huh.
Worth. Now, it was brilliant selection, the back bar,
Yeah.
right? So their back bar is amazing. They've got all the wonderful stuff, TORA, and all the guys, all Ron stuff. You know. Anyway, so I said, I love mezcal. I collect it. So I had a little bit of insight into it. And the guy's like, you should have this añejo one with the worm in it.
Oh, man.
And I'm like,
what?
I looked at him and I'm like, are you fucking with me? I actually
Totally.
asked him, are you fucking with me? 'Cause
That's
you
amazing.
you have like Mescalero special bottlings, like everything back there. And that's when you're going to say, yeah, it's good. I'm like, I don't know where the fuck I am right now.
Totally.
But you're right. So there's still that massive opportunity for
amazing.
education.
Yeah.
And when this is a great time for mezcal, this is still when all the great art's being created.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
it
it obviously won't have to taper off because
Yeah.
there's so many new brands coming in. And then if
Yeah.
people aren't taking the green side of it seriously, it's not going to be sustainable.
Totally. I think I want to jump on that for a minute. I one of the things that, you know, I could say is an open call to all the mezcal producers, if any of you are listening, like, the rising tide's going to lift all ships.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's this ridiculous idea that it needs to be competitive amongst us is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's weird. You know, a category is bigger than one brand, right? And together we've created a category, and that category will continue to grow and can sustain so much good work that I see it coming. You know, we're putting our money where our mouth is with the sharing of ideas, but I look forward to the day when, you know, there's a real camaraderie within it.
It's getting close.
I hope so. You know, and that camaraderie will then allow us to take better care of Oaxaca, which I think is important.
Absolutely.
Actually, can we come back to the 7/8? We didn't talk about that.
Yeah,
the shit
please.
that gets thrown out.
Yeah.
I always think about that. So as an example, we're working on 3 things with the waste, the vinasas, essentially. One is you just turn it into compost.
Which is good.
It's good.
A lot of stuff
It's really
growing
good.
in there, yeah.
Totally. The second that we're working on, in fact, we're I think we're going to pick up this machine soon, is we can take the bagasso and create adobe bricks and then build housing.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's going to be amazing.
You can build a rick house.
Yeah, or
Right.
we
Or-
do a public, you know, some sort of public housing initiative.
Amazing, yeah.
We're already actually in Matatlan. We're teaching English classes and dance classes and endowing the library. And
That's amazing.
it's
Wow.
really cool to give back. You got to give back to the community. And I mean,
Well,
that
it's like, what's the next humanitarian step? It feels
100%.
like, you know?
100%. You know, and that's you have to do good while you're trying to do well.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I think so.
And then the final is, I think we're going to be able to turn the vinasas into biofuel and then use that to actually fire the stills.
Amazing, yeah.
That's if we can get that done, I mean, it's a real cool step for the
it's
industry
amazing,
and
yeah.
for Oaxaca, and like, you know, all right, this, as you said, everyone romances the place, but in reality, mezcal production's very dirty. So
it's
if
insanely
we're gonna still be romantic about it, let's take care of this place. Let's
Yeah.
take care of it. And so I would like to see the camaraderie within the mezcal industry develop around that. Like,
Yeah.
how do we take care of this place, take care of these people, and, you know, make sure everyone's paid well?
It's an
and-
interesting equation, too. I think that probably appeals to you. Like,
Oh,
it's a
yeah.
problem. It's a puzzle.
Yeah.
And I
It is.
love that where it's like you've got this thing, right? It's
Yep.
a total MacGyver episode.
Yeah.
I am about to
Duct
get
tape.
sunk. Exactly. How do I put these things? I've got the spent agave fiber. I've got water. I've got some dirt.
Yep.
How do I turn this into something that I need to get out of this
Totally.
situation? I love those kinds of puzzles as well.
It's so fun.
So Sombra's been out since 2006. You said 11
Yeah.
years.
11 years.
Insane.
Yeah.
And you guys, it's the one Espadine that's out, right?
Yep. Exactly.
But we are sipping what is one of really the most lovely tobolas I've had.
Thank you.
This is really, really incredible. Like
Thank
a friends
you.
and family mezcal version.
Exactly. Yeah. We want to, you know, I riffed on tradition and how do you make things better. We've really thought about how do I do one thing
Yeah.
and do it really, really well.
Yeah.
I want to be the best and the most accessible.
Totally.
Meaning, like, I want to make something great and share it with as many people as I can. And so that's what we've been trying to do with Sombra and the Espadin. I'm by nature a curious person, and we wanted to play with some of the wild agave, but there's also real pressure on it. And so I think you have to be very, very careful if you're going to commercialize these things. And someday we may in tiny, tiny quantities. But for 3 years in a row, we just did our own little, ceremonial single Tobola roast.
Amazing.
And single run distillation, 2 distillations, but single production. And we made 50 of these 1.75 liter bottles to give to people. And, we could have put them in small bottles and spread it around, or I could have put them in 750s and spread it around. But, like, fuck it. You're my buddy. Here's 1.75 liters of this stuff. Enjoy.
That is a bold.
It's a fun thing to do, man.
Really bold move. I mean, it's so cool.
Every time I hand one of those to somebody, I feel like it's the gift of giving. It feels so good.
It is. It's insane. And it is really spectacular.
Thank you.
It's not too cheesy, so it's stayed out after fermentation exactly the right amount of time, or rather after cooking. The distillation is very, very point and very balanced. I feel very good about the blending. From a meager dude's perspective.
You're talking like an authority. I like it. It's good.
It's really delicious stuff. So I've got one last, actually 2 questions for you.
Anything.
Really interesting, insightful guy, and it seems like everything interests you. You know what I mean? Like, you can get into the details and build these equations of how things work. Well, one thing is, it seems like you've done an awful lot of things. You've set the ship to sail in a direction. You met the destination, and then you set it and point it, rinse and repeat, right? So what is, beyond this amazing and massive kind of humanitarian effort for the communities in Oaxaca surrounding mezcal production, what is the next, perhaps, booze-related endeavor for you? Have you thought about it, or is it public yet?
That's a great question. I'm an open book. I have thought separately on my own. I haven't chatted about this with any potential partners, is the point. But I think, and you may think I'm crazy, I think there's room for a really good mixto tequila.
No kidding.
I do.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do it with some crazy ass rum as the other half.
No shit.
Yeah, I've found some stuff, and I love agricole. In fact, I like, to me, agricole is the single best smelling spirit. To me, it's like, it's catnip. Some people love cilantro, some people hate cilantro. I could sleep in a bed of cilantro. And for me, agricole is that thing. It smells I don't love the way it makes me feel as much as I do agave spirits, but I just love the way it sniffs. And so, look, this is one of those things that, you're listening, you might say he's an idiot, or you might think I'm a nut, but I want to try it and see what happens.
Something tastes good, it tastes good. Right?
Exactly. I need to learn more about, like, what's the history of mixto. Was it done just because it was cheap, or was it done as a shortcut? And if so, well, then there's no noble history there. But maybe there is something noble somewhere, or I don't know. Why not? I don't know. Who knows? That it could fall flat on its face, but I'm curious about that. And so the way I'll explore it is I'll probably go to this place, get this place out in the mountains I'm dreaming about, and get something done, and I'll come test it on you and all these guys,
brilliant minds, like,
and just say, here, drink this, tell me what you think. And that's how it goes.
Four Roses had a big problem, or not a problem, but a challenge. Same thing with High West about blending whiskeys.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah,
it's like it's like making a salad or making a dressing.
Yeah,
it's like oil and vinegar. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, if you throw some tarragon in there.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's good. It's an interesting element, right?
Yeah.
Well, what about some Chihuahuan smoke salt? Oh, fuck, wow. Now you're really building. So to me, it's composition and flavor,
Yeah. And what if you make something that's truly delicious and is like $12?
Dude, that's exactly the holy grail, right?
Kind of, So we'll see.
I love that approach, and I think it's really, really bold. And I think if it tastes good, it tastes good.
Yeah.
And you're being ethical, which you will. I don't think you are bound to like this what is it, a Hippocratic oath of production and stuff. So I think you'll be just fine there.
There's a part B to it, though.
Oh, what's that?
We make rosé in Provence, and I'm going to turn that into a pink vermouth also.
Oh,
so we'll see. We'll see.
That's cool too. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll happen sooner. Actually.
Yeah. Well, then I think people are like, oh, that makes sense. Let's do that.
Yeah.
A little bit less.
We're already making the wine. The botanicals
exactly.
are there. Just gotta
Just combine the two.
Yeah.
Well, so the last question I've got for you is, you're sipping some mezcal, let's say some Palenque or a Mescalero somewhere in Oaxaca.
Yep.
You can sit and chat and pick the brain of anybody that has ever lived or died. Who might that person be that you would sit and really want to talk to?
I love that question. My answer changed last night. I was up late, actually.
Okay.
I think about this question all the time. I probably think about this question 3 times a week.
That's incredible. Has anybody asked you that before?
Never.
Yeah.
No. I love this question, and my answer is it's transient. It's here. It's right now.
Yeah.
And it's, as of today, John Hughes.
Illinois-born director.
Exactly.
John Hughes.
Yeah. Breakfast Club, Ferris
Yes,
Bueller's
sir.
Day Off,
16
like
Candles.
all of that stuff.
Home Alone, even.
Like,
Wow.
yeah. I mean, that guy had heart. He's passed away
Yeah.
in 2009, but he tapped into like this love and romance and emotion and toil in a way that I don't think I've ever like experienced with anybody else.
Yeah.
And I just want to understand what that guy's heart's all about.
Do you know why I think that is? And film as a whole, we'll have to have this conversation another time, but he was never jaded. He never judged his characters.
Exactly.
Right?
That's it.
They were just people with their flaws, and he had no problem with it.
Totally.
Because we're all human.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And we ought not be jaded. It
is. He's such a kind man, it seemed like.
Yeah.
That's a brilliant answer, fucking John Hughes.
Right on.
I bet he would enjoy like a good beer.
Oh, I'm certain we'd have a good time.
That'd be really good.
Yeah.
Dude, it's been really, really a pleasure chatting with you, Richard.
Thank you for having me.
I think you're really going to enjoy the rest of the conference. And this Tobola is magical.
Right
and,
on.
I'm going to sprinkle it on my shoes.
I love that.
A way to commemorate the day, dude. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, there we have it, Mr. Richard Betts, a wine importer and mezcal importer. We got to sip some of the Sombra Mezcal Tobola, which is not available in the States, and it was just delicious, and really no finer spirit to sit and talk about the world, to sit and talk about music, agave, sustainability, and so much more with Richard Betts. Mr. Travis Tober, the fine gentleman that he is, helped coordinate that interview, and I am eternally thankful. Richard is the kind of guy that you want to sit down and just learn as much as you can from him, because once he sets his sight on doing something, he absolutely does it to the fullest. So thank you so much for chatting with me, Richard. And thank you for listening to Show to V with Mike G. No matter if you think there are too many gins coming into the market despite how delicious they all may be, or if you're thinking, man, it's almost tiki week, please keep dancing.